Black Scully on, check. Got a little CFB Nation Big 12 shirt on, check. Welcome to another marvelous episode. Today episode is going I'm telling y'all in for a real treat today. If y'all able to catch this whole episode, my apologies for the late start. We're trying to get some last minute things figured out, some videos, go and corroborate. But it's all good. I'm happy to be here. CFB Nation, this is a crazy week for us. It's a game week for us. Shout out to everybody who paid attention to our top 25. Shout out to everybody who showed love and everybody who, didn't like it. That's cool. That's what we want. We want people to feel a way about it. But trust and believe the processes that we have in place for that top 25. It is what it is. I know a lot of people took issue with Clemson being the number 1 team in the country. Some people took issue with Penn State being a number 2 team in the country. Just go look at the rosters, bro. Go study the rosters. That's all I got to say to anybody who has any type of conversation about that. We've also come up with the name for our tour this upcoming year. I ain't gonna say it just yet. I'm gonna let Moon cook up a graphic and then we'll release that a little bit later. But I do know where we're headed for week 0, because yes, week 0 is an actual week, so we should be going somewhere week 0. I already know where we going. I'll announce that later in the show. On today's docket, this is Governor College Football episode 68. Alabama loses Jan Miller. Shout out to Nino. Nino runs our Twitter account. And him and D-Now are always real quick to, find out what the news is. And then, Nino put a tweet out. That tweet got a lot of traction and a lot of interaction. But you just hate to hear, a lot of us are extremely high on Alabama this upcoming season. And I'm sure Jan Miller played a pivotal role in why we were so high on them this upcoming season. But the Tide loses their star and running back undergo surgery for a collarbone injury. They saying he's out for roughly 6 weeks or so, at least in late September. They say missing Florida State, the ULM game in Wisconsin, with Justin Haynes down in Michigan. Alabama's margin for error just got a little slimmer. But, I believe this is like how it was a couple years ago where both them and Georgia are off on week 4, and then week 5 they play each other. So hopefully he's back for that game. Tennessee, Jermod McCoy is our second story we'll be talking about today. He get a rehab update. Also, Sam Pittman versus the press. I don't know if you guys saw this past weekend, but he did clap back at some reporter. But we'll talk a little bit about that. Rhett Lashlee calls the FPI rigged. This is hilarious. It truly is hilarious, because for as much as coaches say, hey, we don't care about the rankings, yeah, you do. If you are a coach who doesn't care about the rankings because your team is ranked high, you don't want your team to start sipping that Kool-Aid. But if you're a coach and you feel like your team did an outstanding job and you're a brand ambassador and your team isn't as high as they should be, you're peed off about it, 100%. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. I give Clemson a lot of credit for the culture that Dabo Swinney has been able to build there. So it's heartbreaking here that their tight end got arrested. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And also, apparently we got a quarterback battle in Eugene. I thought this was a foregone conclusion that it was Dante Moore's job. Reports are that it might be a little bit different. Governor reacts. So the Big Ten, I don't know what they on. I don't know what type of operation this is. And I know some of my peers here at CFB Nation, we're going to talk about it tonight, probably aren't opposed to this idea of a 24 or 28 team. I'll expand on this a little bit later. But what I will say is this. I feel like when you got bad news, you try to put out something that'll generate more news than the bad news. And when the Big Ten as an entity, as a conference takes an L, no matter what team took the L, the entire conference takes an L. So, of course, Michigan, did they really take an L? They did win a national championship. We'll talk about that a little bit later, too. But they floating around this 24 to 28 team college football playoff. I know my boy D-Now has been a huge proponent of this, huge fan. He said, hey, do it the same way that the FCS does it. And I'm sure that'll be a lot of his take. Overreaction is live tonight over at CFB Nation, 8 p.m. or 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I haven't confirmed the time with the guys, but I feel like this type of thing is, I don't know if there's legitimacy to this or if they truly feel this great about this idea. My thoughts are early, and like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about it later, is that they just putting out this just the Michigan news kind of go away and go sit in the corner, or the Cold War with the SEC has really took a turn for the worse, and now they're really trying to piss them off. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, for our governor ruling segment, I don't know if you guys see the thumbnail, but the thumbnail is pretty hilarious today. The NCAA Michigan penalties wasn't enough. I'll get into that a little bit later. And for Around the Nation, it is a game week, so we're going to do some game previews. We got Idaho State versus UNLV. We're going to talk a lot about that game, and then also Fresno State versus Kansas. If you guys never seen me break a game down before, I truly get into it, and I'm excited about it. And I'm so excited for this episode. We'll talk about more games. We'll talk about a couple more games tomorrow as well. And then it's a crazy week. I got to make my predictions for who's going to win each conference this week. I got to make my prediction for who's going to be in the college football playoff. Also, we're traveling. We are on the road. So Friday, I'm not sure what happens with Friday episode. I may have to make that a later time. I got to just see what time my flight's going to be. We are going to Atlanta, so that should give you a hint exactly where we're going. Governor College Football, hashtag go CFB. CFB Nation, your only college football destination. Let's get it. Governor of College Football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ
Great defensive minds. They have to be better on that side of it. Alrighty, let's get into the news. I am so happy about this week of college football. It's a long off season, but of course, if you watched our platform or other people's platform during the off season, you was able to stay up to date. Shout out to you. You guys are what I consider the 1%ers, and that's why I like to call it people who truly care about college football, always obsessing over college football. Even though the weeks of the season are so short, but it's so spectacular in that little bit of time we get. So we talked about Jan Miller injury. And it's heartbreaking. I don't know if it's because this is probably the most locked in I've ever been on college football. Like, I feel like I've been locked in years in the past, but I think the difference is this year, it's my number one focus. It's my sole focus. I don't have a million people calling my phone. I don't have, to go work somewhere that's open 24/7 and something is always going on. I'm dedicating the rest of my 2025 to the college football season. So I don't know. I just feel like injuries are higher this offseason. Let me know if you guys agree with me. If injuries feel, I don't know. I feel like it's been a lot more. But somebody like Jan Miller, you just, expect when you head into the season and you start ranking teams and looking at teams and say, well, hold on, this team has a huge opportunity to do something. And I'm talking about that team in Tuscaloosa. For them to lose their starting running back, one thing Alabama's always going to have is a great deal of depth. So I think they'll be fine. But we're going to find out with Florida State. They got them week 1, so we'll figure that out. And hopefully it's only 6 weeks. Hopefully 5. That way he's back by that Georgia game because Alabama's going to absolutely need him during that game. Jermod McCoy, I've said this on the show before. I believe he is the best cornerback in all of college football. Some people might disagree with that, but I believe his ability to make plays is out of this world. He's also not afraid to get physical as well. What he had, 4 INTs last year, 44 tackles, 9 pass breakups last year, but he is rehabbing from the tear. ACL tear. I think that happened in January. Hopefully he's ready for game 1. If he is, it's something I'll be monitoring. If you haven't been paying attention, we're going to a myriad of games game 1. I know the Thursday night game has been confirmed with Wisconsin versus Miami of Ohio. We will be going to Madison for that game. Friday night, we're still trying to iron out. Saturday, I know this for sure. We're going to the Affleck game. That's the Syracuse and Tennessee game. I can't wait to see that. I'm quite sure we'll be going to Clemson, LSU that night, and then on Sunday we're going to the Beamer Bowl. So those are confirmed, and I'll go ahead and announce the Week 0 game now. We're going to Atlanta, Georgia for the Swag MEAC Challenge. We'll be at Week 0 Swag MEAC Challenge, and we were kind of looking at names for what the call-out tour. And I think We Cover the Nation tour is probably the best name for it because we don't just go to those Power 4 games. We also go to Group of 5 games. We also go to FCS games. We've also been to Division 2 games. And then we also go to HBCU games. And every week we have an HBCU week. Week 0 wasn't even planning to be an HBCU week, but we're going down there. I'm actually going to order me a couple of HBCU shirts before we get there. Super excited for that. Both the SWAC and the MEAC and this challenge has been very grateful to us. Moon has provided coverage, outstanding coverage for them for the last few years. Shout out to Moon. Moon is going to be in Georgia State documentary. I don't know if you guys seen the SEC football any given Saturday documentary, but how they had like Andy Staples and a couple other people on there. Moon, Georgia State is doing a documentary this year, and I'm not sure if they're doing weekly releases or how they're doing it this upcoming season, but Moon is one of the media that are in that. He went there on Saturday, absolutely killed it. Like, I already knew he was going to kill it. And when I tell you, the name of his show is World of CFB. If you haven't seen it yet, please check it out. But he really does cover all of college football. So I think what better than to call our tour, We Cover the Nation tour. That just should be the name of it. Pittman versus the press, man. Listen, when I was watching the SEC football any given Saturday, one of the people that really stuck out on that show was Sam Pittman, because he got this silent confidence about him. Like, he walk around like I could tell he ain't scared of nothing. I could tell, like, he really believe in what he speak. But sometimes these coaches get upset at the questions we ask. Has it happened to me verbatim? Kind of. I'm always scared how I would react in that situation. I really am. Because somebody say something too crazy, like, I ain't too far removed from Leverett. And if you know, you know. That's all I'm gonna say. Somebody say something too crazy. That's the thing I fear most being in this industry. You can't just talk crazy to people. You just can't. But here it is. There was a reporter who had asked him a question, and she kind of clumsily compared year 6 under Pittman to year 2 under Bobby Petrino. Pittman fired back with, "Was there a question in there? Or what the hell are we doing?" The moment went viral. The reporter apologized, but the tension in Fayetteville is real as Pittman fights to, steady the Hogs. I believe he also issued an apology later on, but it is what it is. We are people, bro. I remember one day, like prior to this year at ACC Media Days, because we were on Radio Row, so we would, provide content for you guys live. Typically, I'm in the auditorium, and the master of ceremony's name is Trippin. He's always looking for us to ask a lot of questions. So he's always looking at me, Jalen, and Moon to ask a myriad of questions. And one time I had this really well-planned, orchestrated question to ask Mario Cristobal, and he didn't catch it. So I'm like, all right, let me break this down, layman's terms, because every coach that I've talked to always had positive conversations. They've always enjoyed the questions I've asked, Pat Narduzzi being one of them, Brent Key being one of them, Brent Pry being another one of them. They've always asked, enjoyed the question I asked. But Mario Cristobal, I don't know, maybe he had blanked out for a moment, wasn't really paying attention to what I was asking. So that was the moment. I'm like, yo, forget you, dog. That's how it was. But it was temporary. You know what I'm saying? I don't take it to heart. But it is what it is. But that's one of my biggest fears in doing what we do, is that sometimes people be told a little bit crazy. You know what I'm saying? Where we from, it just is what it is. Rhett Lashlee calls the FPI rigged. SMU head coach blasted ESPN's updated FPI rankings after Clemson and Miami dropped outside of 15. Lashlee Mustangs at 19, and he didn't mince words because the whole thing is rigged. Lashlee already poked at the SEC during ACC Media Days. He had a great take during Media Days about them. Rhett Lashlee is a guy that I was extremely critical of heading into the season, just because I didn't like the handling of the quarterback situation. In the end, I was 100% wrong. He was 100% right, and that's why he's the coach, and that's why I'm here on the sidelines talking about the sport. But I think he nailed it with his take about the SEC, and a lot of people were upset about it, but it is what it is. I mean, that's just the era that we live in now. Clemson tight end, this is heartbreaking to hear. Arrested, Dabo Swinney confirmed the tight end Ian Shiflin was arrested on suspicion of DUI and will be suspended to start the year. Sheffield, I'm sorry I'm messing his name up, was a Clemson basketball convert who just joined the football program in the spring. It was supposed to be a, fall camp wild card, and instead it's football season. This is rough. This is difficult to hear, and something that we know about Dabo Swinney is, one, his players have an extremely high GPA, the highest across the sport at the FBS ranks. And then also they graduate at a really high clip. And then when you think about culture, and I haven't been around all of the programs, but I've been around a decent amount of programs. So when you're around Clemson, it reeks family. You just see it. All of the players who used to play always come back. You will see them on the sideline. You will just run into them like, oh, yo, that's such and such. That's just the way it is there. So to hear this, like I said, my mind hasn't changed. It is what it is. But I know Dabo's going to He's going to lean into him. QB1 not locked at Oregon. So some people probably think I'm a conspiracy just because I don't believe the Ohio State quarterback battle is as locked as everybody kind of think it is. I think everybody thinks it's going to be Julian Sand. And unless they announce something, last 5 hours while I was, getting to the buddy, then, I don't know. But I think that quarterback battle is tougher than people think. And then it's dragging. I hate to see quarterback battles drag. Like UNLV, Dan Mullen, I've been hyped about you guys all year. When are you going to name a starting quarterback? Seriously. Either pick Alex Orji or, Anthony Calandria. Like, pick somebody at quarterback. You got a game this week. And I know it's two different skill sets, and maybe you want to keep Idaho State off its toes, but name a starting quarterback, bro. But they're saying, and this is from Pete Thamel from ESPN, saying that the quarterback one is not locked at Oregon. Pete Thamel poured a little cold water on Dante Moore, presumed starting job, while Moore is the favorite. Thamel says backup Austin Novosad, and that's somebody that Nino's been a huge fan of, could really see snaps in the fall. The Ducks paid more and more NIL money to wait his turn. This is interesting. I thought this thing was just locked up. Like Dante Moore's going to be the starter. I don't know. I still think he's going to be the starter, but that's just the reports. That was our Into the News segment. We about to head right into our next segment, which is Governor Reacts, and we reacting to the madness that the Big Ten is. I'll be right back. Alrighty, so Governor Reacts, Big Ten push for a larger payoff. I said that playoff. I said this kind of in the cold open, right? That I was thinking about, like, yo, why now? Like, why y'all saying this now? And my first immediate thought was like, yo, are you doing what, like, they do, like, what politicians do? Like, something else is really happening, but we gonna throw something out there? So y'all not paying attention to the real, and y'all paying attention to the fluff? That way we can handle what we need to handle behind closed doors? I didn't understand the timing of it all. So I had two schools of thought. So that was my first school of thought, that, hey, the Michigan sanctions came down. Everybody's talking about it. People kind of frustrated with the NCAA and their inability to hold people accountable. What happened to the NCAA? Oh, yeah, I know what happened. Players are getting paid and they want to respect amateurism, so they're upset. They're still butthurt about this, by the way. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I've been really just trying to figure out, where is this coming from? Like, why is this a thing? And I know some people are like, hey, more teams, more money. That means more teams have opportunity. No, dog. No. But I'm going to give you guys the facts. Y'all can make a sound judgment for yourself, and then I give you my opinion on the entire situation. So the big idea is 20-plus teams in the college football playoff. How do you guys feel about that? I feel like the nuance that is college football, it's been so great because you have a myriad of teams. We had 136 now, and then back in the day, it was only 4 teams went to the playoff. I think that's when we was at like 133 teams. So then it was like extremely difficult to make the playoffs. Now it's still very difficult to make the playoff. What you saying? You say 12 teams, 136 teams? I don't have the numbers, but it's still pretty difficult to make the playoff. And not saying that it still won't be difficult to make the playoff, but I feel like you're slowly pulling away from the regular season. And why we love this sport so much to begin with, 20-plus teams in college football playoff is just too much for me. Like, I was even uncomfortable with going to 14 or 16. But it's like, are they going to keep moving it up? Like, eventually, are they just going to have a March Madness like basketball? And, the college football season didn't have to be like a couple months longer, right? It had to bleed into March, right? If you're going to have something like that. But Big Ten executives are floating around a 24 and 2018 playoff bracket. It's in the early discussion stage, but described by insiders as a barely baked idea. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti and SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey have already had preliminary call to exchange thoughts. These dudes are in the midst of a Cold War. And if you haven't seen this and you aren't aware, they are truly in the midst of a Cold War. They are playing nice, but they beefing. You hear it from the players. You hear it from the coaches. You haven't heard it from them just yet, but the ideologies are starting to shift. It was supposed to be like, okay, the SEC and Big Ten are going to steer the future of college football because of their alleged alliance, right? That, hey, we have the biggest teams. We have the biggest games. We're going to steer this sport into the right direction. What happened, B? That's what I want to know. Like, what happened? Why all of a sudden we got all of this crazy talk? Because this right here is crazy talk. And if you like the idea of this, I get it. I get it. Hey, man, we get more games. We get more college football. But is it better for the sport? That's the question I ask you right now. Is it better for the sport to have a 2018 playoff? With a 2018 playoff, just a season ago, we had some 93 teams with very great resumes miss the playoff, right? Because they rewarded teams that were, who played in their conference championship, and they awarded winning. So if 93 teams just miss the playoffs, we could possibly have like 8-4 teams make the playoff now, or 7-5 playoff, teams make the playoff. That's atrocious. That's not good. That's not good at all. 9-3, I would have been okay if South Carolina made it. Even though I predicted Ole Miss to win a championship last year, I wouldn't have been okay if they made it because they controlled their own destiny. But they had some losses. Like, you go and you handle business in Gainesville, you're in the playoff, right? And then they lose, right? To a really good football team, the team that I think is going to be outstanding this upcoming year. But this is nasty, bro. This is nasty. 24 or 28 teams. I'll give you guys, what the numbers look like, but this is nasty. The proposed format. So you know how they always do the number thing. This is the 7-7-5-5-2-2 model. Bro, we sound like Mike Jones, bro. Like, why is there so many numbers? Like, this is crazy. So 7 automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten and the SEC. 7? Like, cuz from the Little Rascals, bro. 7? That is crazy. 7 automatic qualifiers? That means you can goof off, right? You can goof off. Let's look at the SEC standings from last year. That essentially means you can goof off and make the playoff. Let's see what that look like. SEC standings. Do we get any 7-5 teams in? 7 automatic qualifiers is nasty work, bro. That is very nasty work. Let's look at the SEC standings. Let's take a look at it. All right. Oh, nah, 2020. 2024, cuz. Stop playing with me. Let's see, it's 2024. That is nasty work, though. That is crazy. All right. So last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's not too shabby. At 8-4, LSU would have gotten. That ain't too bad. But, I mean, I don't know. You guys may want to see that. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it at all. Let's look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, Iowa and Michigan would have gotten to the playoff last year. No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do not want to see that. But I'll continue going over everything else. 7 is crazy. 7 automatic qualifiers for each of the Big Ten and the SEC. That's wild. No. 5 each for the ACC and Big 12. Did either one of those conferences have 5 teams that were worthy of being in the playoff last year? 5? Louisville would have got in. Tech would have been on the cusp of getting in. And they had 6 losses last year. Big 12. Baylor would have gotten in last year at 8-4. Now, I'm not a fan of it. I'll continue. So that means 7 automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten and the SEC, 5 for each of the ACC and the Big 12, 2 for the best group of 5 programs. Well, now they're calling them the group of 6 programs with the Pac-12 joining because they're already going to put them in that bracket. 2 at-large selections. That's how you get 28 teams. 2 at-large spots. So you say, okay, if I'm in the SEC or Big Ten, I just gotta finish top 7 and I'm in. I don't know. That's crazy. That is crazy. First round buys and hosting. How would that work? Presumably the top 4 seeds get a bye in a 24-28 setup. The first 2 rounds will be on campus games, not just like the first round in a current 12-team model. Quarterfinals and semifinals remain as the 6 big bowls. National championship still rotates through the bidding. Where it gets cut, conference championships. League title games could be eliminated entirely to make room for a 5-round playoff. Filthy. This is filthy. No. I'm not a fan of this at all. and why it allows first playoff round to be held on the second weekend of December when the NFL, playoff hasn't started. Because we all know big bank take little bank. NFL still reigns king, and that's why we don't even get a college football championship on a Saturday, because those Saturdays belong to the NFL wild card. So context and alternatives. Let's see. Big Ten first floated around, 16 team idea, the 4-4-2-2-1-3 model, 4 auto bids for the Big Ten and SEC, 2 for the ACC and Big 12, 1 G6, 3 at large. Big 12 Commissioner Barrett Yormark and ACC Commissioner Chin Phillips both opposed, calling it predetermining the playoff. Thank you. They prefer models the 5+11 format, and I'm not all the way sold on that format either. I'm not sure if I like any format, to be honest with you. SEC coaches also favored the 5+11 in the spring meeting, saying it gives more chances for multiple bids without guaranteeing 7 spots for the 2 leagues. So, I don't know. I truly don't know. I wish I had a clue, but to be honest with you, I don't. I look at this thing and I look at it and I say, all right, so now we're just going to give away an opportunity to make the playoffs, because that's truly how I feel. Not saying that these teams won't earn it, but if we look at this and we look at it, with the glass half empty, you're going to look at this and say, yo, like, y'all taking away what matters most to people who really care about college football, which is the regular season. If you have 4 or 5 losses, you should not have the opportunity to make the playoff. I'm sorry, you shouldn't. This ain't college basketball, bro. This ain't the NBA. Where we saw teams in the Eastern Conference 10 years ago have like losing records and be the 8th seed in the playoff. That's not the way it should work in college football. I'm sorry. It's not. A lot of y'all gonna get excited about this. Me personally, I can never get excited about something like this, because this ain't it for me. This ain't. So this will be absolutely no, absolutely not in my book. And that's how I'm reacting to this. This is stupid. This is dumb. And it's okay if you like it. I'm not calling you stupid or dumb. Maybe. I'm calling this stupid and dumb at the same time. Let's get on to our next segment, Governor Ruling. Alrighty, so Governor Ruling, were Michigan sanctions enough? So a lot of people like to say, that the hammer dropped on Friday, or lack thereof, because I don't really think much of a hammer dropped at all, right? If we're being honest. So the NCAA finally handed down its decision on Michigan science stealing scandal. And here's how it went down. If you haven't heard, but I'm sure you guys have already heard, because you guys are the 1%ers. Financial hit, a fine exceeding $20 million lost postseason revenue over 2025-2026, plus a $50K fine and 10% of the final football budget. Recruiting restrictions, 25% cut, and official visits, which many of us point out is meaningless now that the visits are unlimited, plus 14 weeks of no recruiting communication. Probation is 4 years. Jim Harbaugh, a 10-year show cause beginning in 2028 after his current 4-year order ends. So, we're talking about a total of, that's a long time, brother. Total of 14 years, essentially a career ender at the collegiate level. Sharon Moore, 2-year show cause, suspended 3 games total, self-imposed 2 plus 1 in 2026. We already know what 2 games he won't be at. That's the CMU game and the Nebraska game. He wanted to make sure he was at the Oklahoma game, which was his alma mater. Connor Stallions, an 8-year show cause. Denard Robinson, they got my boy Shoelace, bro. A 3-year show clause. Add that to the scathing language. The NCAA described the scheme as some of the worst the COI has ever seen, involving a network dubbed the KGB, 52 games scouted, disguises, $35K spent in tickets, deleted evidence, refusal to cooperate, and misleading investigators. Let me tell you the type of message that the NCAA sent with this whole fiasco. The message that, in my opinion, that they sent is that if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Like, they get a slap on the wrist. This what it is, a slap on the wrist. And I know fans in Ann Arbor like happy with this. Like, boosters probably call like, that's all they giving us. You guys need some money, we got you. Like, a slap on the wrist for destroying evidence, bruh. Slap on the wrist for going and scouting, games and purchasing a bunch of tickets. This all they gotta get. This is all they gotta do. We got show causes for Harbaugh, Moore, Connor Stallions, my boy Shoelace. Recruiting restrictions, 25% cut. You think that's gonna hurt that brand? It ain't gonna hurt that brand at all. And you think a little fine of $20 million gonna hurt them? That's not gonna hurt them. Where is the postseason ban? If y'all really wanted to send a message, you would have had a postseason brand. Granted, I fought some of these stupid teams who are having signs on the sideline, bro. They don't even do that at the pee-wee level, bro. They don't. The closest player after the end of the play will run up to the coach. Coaches say blue one. You know, you look at your quarterback wrist, blue one, you call a play. It's that simple. Y'all holding up signs like people can't figure out these signs. And the fact that Kanye Stallions, after Sonny Dykes said, yeah, that's why we changed some plays, this fool openly admits, well, hey, there were 7 games I knew every signal for. 7? 7? You knew the signals for 7 games, my G? And you admitted that? That would have got taken to the grave with me. No, he's right. Yeah, that's why they won. And then he attributed it to poor tackling. Brother. Yo, I done took that to the grave. It is no way you openly admit and you list the games that you knew all of the signs for. So you give people like us the ability to go back and look at those games and watch the adjustment that you make. But he attributed it to poor tackling, the reason that they lost. Yo, like those weren't the term of the, you know what I'm saying, of the agreement, bro. If you was gonna do this, you gotta do it all the way. I wouldn't have said nothing. The next Netflix special wouldn't have happened. Now I know you was probably trying to make a little money on, but man, I would have held that, bro. Cause now, you know what I'm saying, you'd have given people so many reasons, but Sonny Dykes say something, you ain't had to respond to it. You didn't. But to say that, hey, we knew all of their signals, but we just didn't tackle well. So I do place most of the blame on Michigan 100%. But for people to use antiquated ways of getting a play onto the field just because you want to move fast, that's stupid. Why are we putting up all these signals like they can't be interpreted? Like somebody like Hunter Stallions isn't out. And like I always say, Michigan not the first team to do this. They're just the first team to get caught at this level. To get caught red-handed like this. And what are some of the programs doing? They just credentialing anybody? They didn't do a little bit of homework? They try to figure out who these people on their sidelines are? I'm saying, like, you go to a school like Liberty, their security don't be playing. Hey, can I see your credential? Like, bro, you seen us here all last year. Why you ask me for my credential, bro? But you gotta respect it. Here you go. You looked at it. Okay, flashlight. Top flight security of the world. I don't blame him. He gotta do what he gotta do at the end of the day, but that's crazy. That's crazy to me. So, and to add to all that language, like I said, this is crazy. The context, Michigan won the 2023 National Championship in the middle of the scandal. Postseason ban never came. Why? Why we don't have a postseason ban? Because NCAA moved slowly. Charlie Baker twiddling his thumbs per usual. And by the time the ruling's dropped, Michigan had already cashed in. So the message that they send is if you not cheating, you not trying. That's 100% of the message that they are sending. If you aren't cheating, you are not trying. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. And I know Michigan fans like, well, why did we deserve a postseason ban? Dude, did you see how many infractions you guys had? Y'all deserved a postseason ban, even if it's for 1 year. Even if it's for 1 year, I think that would have truly laid down the hammer and then a $20 million fine. There's boosters and donors. They don't care about no $20 million fine. When can I cut the check at? I got you. But y'all didn't and got the audacity to say, oh, we laid down a hammer. No, I'll tell you a situation that the hammer was laid down. Let's go all the way back to 1987, bro. Let's compare the SMU death penalty to this crap that the NCAA called. That's why we need a college football commission. Because the NCAA not going to hold nobody accountable. Let me tell you the areas that they're not holding anybody accountable. They're not holding anybody accountable as it pertains to NIL. And I always mention the Caden Proctor situation, how he left Tuscaloosa, went to Iowa City, cashed out, went right back to Tuscaloosa. That shouldn't have happened. The Jada Rashada situation where the boosters in Gainesville were saying they got $13 million for him, even though he wasn't worth it. And that's not me disrespecting him. I'm just saying, you can look at his NIL valuation. Where did $13 million come from? So they're not holding the players or the teams accountable with that. Poaching, tampering, nobody's been held accountable for that. Tennessee openly tried to get Josh Hoover from TCU this past year. Openly tried to get Avery Johnson from Kansas State this year. What was done? Absolutely nothing. And then we got players, and this is no shade, Xavier Lucas and Jeff Ranslav, who never entered the portal. They just withdrew from their university and went to the next university. Granted, you can't do this in real life, but NCAA, this is college football. How they allowed to do that? And then we got situations like these where people are clearly cheating and y'all do nothing about it. But y'all laid down a hammer. Stop it, bro. Y'all didn't lay down no hammer. So let's compare it to this 1987 death penalty where the hammer was really laid down. SMU violations. Pay-for-play system with boosters funneling money directly to players, repeated, ignoring NCAA orders. 1987 football season was canceled, bro. Canceled. They ain't talking about no postseason ban. None of that. Hey, bro, 87, y'all don't play football, bro. Y'all go that way. Y'all go play basketball this year. Y'all not playing football. And this is in Dallas, bro. 1988, season canceled for home games, leaving only away contests. Bruh, they were not playing back in the day. Back in the day, this is what you call laying the hammer down, bro. After because Michigan was warned. They 100% was warned. No bowl games, no TV appearances, no scholarships for years. No bowl games, no TV appearances, no scholarships, and no by any means or any way, any stretch of the imagination am I saying this is what should have happened to Michigan. This is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying this drastic, the death penalty. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, it should have been more than what they received. And I think Michigan fans agree, and I think if y'all being real and then y'all read the discussion, y'all say, man, we kind of got off easily, right? If y'all being real. I don't know if you got the ability to do that. Sometimes the fanatic and fan make you not have the ability to do that. My dad's a Cowboy fan. He's been delusional for years. And most Cowboy fans I know are delusional. If you're a Cowboy fan and you listen to this and you feel a way about it, I say it to your face, you're delusional. I don't care. Alrighty, so we got that 1987 football season canceled. 1988 season canceled for home games. They can only play away, bro. Imagine that. You can't play no home games, bro. You can't let your girls see you or some prospective girls you trying to get see you go crazy on the football field. That's crazy. That is wild. No bowl games, no TV appearances, no scholarships for years. Scholarships reduced from 95 to 15 for multiple seasons. You got 15 scholarships, cuz. You know how big these college football teams is? You only got 15 of them. The rest of y'all got to pay y'all way. That's crazy. Long-term, disseminated the program for decades. SMU didn't recover until the 2000s. They're just getting back to the main stage. They're supposed to be in the SEC now. That's how big this program was once upon a time. And they're just crawling their way back. That's crazy. So here's my official ruling. On paper, $20 million fine plus hardball career-ending show cause looks big, right? In practice, Michigan keeps the title, gets no postseason ban, and Sharon Moore only misses 3 games. 2 of this season, he got to pick those 2 because he came to the mercy of the court. But I guess from a numerical perspective, Michigan is a huge brand for the sport, so I guess they feel like, but this is a joke, bro. This is a joke. This is 100% a joke. In no way, shape, or form would I ever take something like this seriously. I just won't, because they refuse to get the job done. It is. So it's not tough enough. That's my ruling. Not tough enough at all. This is a chance to really send a message that competitive cheating at the highest level won't be tolerated. And then it's like, you didn't even have to, after they were caught, you didn't even have to search for the information. The information was right there for you. That man, Connor Stallion, said out loud, I'm from the trenches. We don't do that. If you do something, even if you get caught, you don't say nothing. That's the way it's supposed to work. This man said, I knew the play calls for 7 games over the last and listed the games, bro. Here you go. Bada bing, bada boom. In response to Sonny Dykes' comment on that's why they changed up their plays versus them in the semifinal of the college football playoff back in 2022. That's crazy. And say, hey, you have failed us. That's why we need this commission. We need this commission 100%, and it needs to be led by people who are going to hold everybody to the same standard, even their alma mater. And you need to hold your alma mater to the same standards you hold everybody else to. Everything needs to be in black and white. No need for gray areas. No need to be able to move around the rules. I love this sport just as much as anybody else, and I know I'm purely just talking about the semantics of it. Of course, I'm not talking about the game that we get every Saturday and, during, Maction and Fun Belt and all of that. Nah, of course. I enjoy it. I go to a lot of weekday games. I'm going to a lot of games this year. We will be up there for people who attend the most games this year. I promise you, we will be up there this year because we're going to so many games. But, at the end of the day, I'm going to keep it real. That's my job as a governor, and that's my ruling. This was not tough enough. They had an opportunity to really set the record straight, beyond, fines and, limiting recruiting and all of that stuff, they keep their championship. I don't think they should have lost their championship. But make no mistake about it, you still got to win the games, right? And even Connor Stallions told you that, hey, we knew the calls, but, we just didn't tackle well. But I think there should have been some type of postseason ban. Now, I know some people are marching around saying, well, hey, it's not fair to the players that weren't there. Bro, you knew this was going on with this university when you signed up to play for them. Current players, yeah, they ain't fair to them. I can see if, once the hammer came down or they made this ruling a little bit sooner, that way there was like a portal window open up for players who didn't want to play for this team because of the bowl ban. Yeah, there should have been a postseason ban, bro. 100%. Should have been a postseason ban. I ain't saying for multiple years. At least this year, yeah. Y'all sit out. Y'all enjoy this one. Y'all in Akron can chill, man. Talk about it over a basket of fries or something. Yeah, y'all sit this one out. That's crazy. That's my ruling on this Michigan situation. The sanctions were not enough. The NCAA didn't send a clear message. And if you're not cheating, you ain't trying. If these going to be the infractions, if I'm Michigan, I'm doing it again. Who's the next Connor Stallions? Because this ain't enough that's going to keep me from trying to win. You win championships at the collegiate level. In the sport of football, that means money, 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 money for your program. So they win another one, they're going to do it again. 100%. We're going to go ahead and take an ad break, pay some bills real quick. When we get back, we got some game previews. I'm so excited for this, man. Y'all don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. Look at you out here using all these other sports books, and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS. Get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the offseason, even though we don't celebrate that. CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7. But there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money.
Alrighty, so this is Around the Nation. We got 2 games we're going to cover today for our week 1 previews. We'll do a couple games today, a couple games tomorrow. We may do a game on Wednesday. I'm not sure because I prefer to be able to do this segment then, cut this segment up and then upload them to YouTube. That way, people can watch the previews independently. But the 2 games we're going to talk about today are Idaho State versus UNLV and then Fresno State versus Kansas. I'm excited for college football this week. I really am. My dad called me yesterday and I was talking to Moon and we were chopping up, talking about our first couple of weeks. And, we were both watching Josh Pate's show. Huge fans of his show, by the way. And that's traditionally what happens. We'll end up calling each other while watching Josh Pate's show. And a lot of times I'll watch his show and then, in the midst of preparing my notes. So yesterday I actually was finished with my notes when I was watching this show. Because I don't know if you guys know, I also do all of the thumbnails and the set design and stuff too. So I had to set all of that up. So and it does take time, to be honest with you. But we were talking just about, in general, how excited we are. And we got it finalized that we are going to go to the MEAC SWAC Challenge. I really wanted to go to the FCS kickoff. I was in Montgomery, but I think they're both like around the same time, and the distance from where that is from Moon, because Moon lives in Atlanta, so we're flying down there. Me and Director Mike gonna fly down there Friday at some point. I actually need to look at some airline tickets. But anyway, let's get into this segment, man. Let's talk about these 2 games we have coming up this week. Really good games, man. First, we're gonna start off with Idaho State versus UNLV. This game is this weekend, August 23rd. I believe the kickoff for that game time is at 4 p.m. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, so it's at 4 p.m. The over-under for this is UNLV by 25.5. I'm sorry, that's the spread. And then the over-under is 63.5. Hopefully you guys like these score bugs. Something me and Moon talked about. We had a show that we only aired once, but it was like NFL primetime style. So we want to do that at the collegiate level. It's just the only thing is it's really difficult to get past the copyrights. You know what I'm saying? So if we did it, we would have to probably keep it on like Twitter and, TikTok or Instagram. and Spotify, but even Spotify getting a little crazy. So this is the game inside Allegiant Stadium, which capacity is 65,000, and that's in Las Vegas, Nevada. We see some interesting week 0 games last year. If you look at SMU and look at the way that their season started last year, they struggled with Nevada. Preston Stone couldn't really get it going. Kevin Jennings couldn't really get it going. The defense started to turn it on, and then Kevin Jennings really got it going. And I think it was clear from there that he was going to be their starting quarterback. And at UNLV, we got a sense of newness with UNLV this year. And let's talk about it a little bit. Last season, Idaho State went 5-7, but there's real belief in Pocatello that Cody Hawkins is building something. That's something that I agree. Everything that I've read and the copious amounts of research that I've done on this team, because it's not as easy as when you're talking about like an FBS program. He is getting the job done and he's turning it around. And I tell you what, the Big Sky Conference at the FCS level is a really good conference. So if they're able to continue to trend in the right direction and this year find a way, to win more games, I think they'll be all right. So Buddy Blevins runs the offense, and the Bengals are living in a turbocharged, high-tempo run-and-shoot system built to score on anybody. And they want to score points fast. They want to put points up in bunches. And that's really the way that the scheme is built. Defensively, new defensive coordinator Grant Duff has installed a 4-3/4-2-5 base. But he'll mix in 3-man fronts and blitzes because his philosophy is simple. Violence is always the answer. And that's his words, not mine, but I like that. That's a guy who respects the old school element of football and the old school element of college football. Of course, player safety is the number one thing that we need to be worried about. But, somebody who used to play back in the day, I respect that a lot. So here's some of the players that I'm watching when, Idaho State is either on offense or defense. Quarterback Jordan Cook just named the starter literally a few days ago by Hawkins after a strong camp. I don't know if he got injured or just didn't play much last year. I believe it was the first rather than the latter. I believe he just didn't play much last year, but he had a pretty good 2023 season. And I probably should use the word good loosely, but, 2,400 yards, 12 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. But, last year, like I said, he didn't play much at all. So the wide receivers I'm looking at are Isaiah Duarte and Raiden Brown. Both of them should really fit this scheme that Coach Blevins is trying to run offensively. Duarte had 47 receptions, 504 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Raiden Brown had 38 receptions, 339 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So they're really trying to build something there in Idaho State. And the defensive back, Mason Young, is 2025 All Big Sky selection for a conference. During, media days, they did their conference rankings. So he should be the guy that we're watching defensively when UNLV has the ball. Duff's defense has been flying around in scrimmages, and he's demanding that they be the hammer, not the nail. Still, they are walking into Las Vegas to face a new-look UNLV squad led by Dan Mullen. I just love Dan Mullen's swag. I really do. I think he was mistreated during his time in Gainesville, but he replaces Barry Odom. I know a lot of people love Barry Odom. Barry Odom is now the head coach at Purdue, but Mullen brings that swagger. Corey Dennis is calling the plays for him on the offensive side of the ball after his time at Ohio State and Tulsa. And the expectation is that running back Jaden, however you say his name, Thomas, he's the real deal. He really is. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to see him play, but he has stellar years, both in 2023 and 2024. I know a lot of people was high on Boise State, and pretty much almost every bracket I've seen had Boise State in their college football playoff bracket. I can tell you mine won't, and a lot of it has to do with what UNLV is going to be able to do. But I believe that there are other teams in other conferences that can give Boise State a run for their money. But Jaden Thomas is really spectacular. He's the centerpiece of the entire offense. And right now we're in the middle of a quarterback battle. I hate that it is game week and we're in a quarterback battle. That means that we are taking quality reps away from the guy who's the starter and the guy who's not the starter need to go do not starter things. Not to be disrespectful, but that battle is between Anthony Calandria and Alex Orji. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. On the defensive side of the ball, we got veteran Paul Gunther. He's dialing up the chaos, simulated pressures, double A gap blitzes, twits, stunts, all anchored by preseason All Mountain West linebacker and Marcel McDuffie. I respect the Big Sky, like I said earlier, and Hawkins has ISU moving in the right direction, but I expect UNLV to come out aggressive, physical, and disciplined. That's exactly the way that I think Dan Mullen will want them to play, if we're being honest. And to be completely honest with you, I think that they win a game, and I think they cover the spread. That's a high spread. The spread did scare me because almost immediately, I thought about that SMU game versus Nevada last year where they had a huge spread as well. And Nevada gave them a run for their money. They truly struggled in that game a season ago. But like I said, the players are watching both sides. We got quarterback Jordan Cook, wide receiver Ian Duarte, wide receiver Raydon Brown, and defensive back Mason Young, who was 2025 preseason All Big Sky for the Idaho State Bengals. And then for the UNLV running Rebels, we got Alex Orji, if he starts, or Anthony Calandria. I'm thinking it'll be Orji, but I'm not sure. Jaden Thomas, who I told you guys about, he's electrifying if you haven't had the opportunity to see him play. JoJo Earl, who's kind of been tossed around. I know those stats aren't really impressive, but it'll be interesting to see how he works out in that system. And then Marcel McDuffie, who's a 2025 preseason All-Mountain West. So I broke down the schemes. If Idaho State can play fast and protect the ball and not turn the ball over, they'll have an opportunity to keep this close, and then maybe they will, beat the spread. But I think UNLV is going to want to start this season fast and really send a message to the rest of the teams in the Mountain West. Like, we here. I know a lot of you guys got Boise State, but we're here, and we're ready to do this thing. So that's my prediction for the Idaho State UNLV game. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I just purely said that just for the people who catch this on the rerun, because I will upload that as an independent upload on my YouTube channel. Speaking of which, make sure you guys go follow at the CFB Nation, youtube.com/@THECFB Nation. Also follow my channel, which is youtube.com/@Governor of College Football, all one word, spell it out. We're doing major things this year, and if you are a 1%er and you do love college football, you should follow us. I'm live 5 days a week. Hopefully we can keep that up in season, but it'll be difficult with this travel schedule, especially week 1 travel schedule, because I'm out of town like Wednesday night. So I'll go live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, out of town Wednesday night, depending what Wisconsin let us do, and we have a great relationship with them. If we're able to go live from campus, which I think we'll be able to. If not, we'll find a local bar to go live from. But I do need to have the ability to go live because I want to really bring you guys in season at least 4. But my preference is 5 broadcasts every week, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Let's go ahead and get into this second game, and we're going to talk about this Fresno State and Kansas game. And I think while a lot of people will be paying attention, and I will too, make no mistake about it, this game we'll preview tomorrow. Kansas State, Iowa State game, I think this one might be a sneaky good game. And I could be totally off, right? I could be way off, but I think this might be a really sneaky good game because I think both teams have a lot to prove. If Kansas could have kind of started the season the way that they finished the season, because they were impressive, especially the Colorado game, the physicality that they played with in that game. I think if they can start a little faster this year, I think they'll be, much improved. But let's go ahead and pull up the scoreboard graphic we got for them. And let's talk a little bit about both of these teams. All right, so we got Fresno State heading to Lawrence to David Booth Memorial Stadium in Lawrence, Kansas. It now holds. It went through renovations recently, so it holds like about 5,000 more fans. So they're going to unveil this new stadium. This is actually one of the choices I would have liked to have been at for our first game, but it just makes the most sense without crazy week 1 travel schedule. Go down to Atlanta. That's where Moon is. Catch a quick flight down there. Then it is what it is. So let's go ahead and get into both of these teams. And, I think this game's going to be better than advertised. Game 2 is all about the new era colliding with the program on the rise. Fresno State just, finished last year in transition. Now Matt Entz takes over, the long-time, North Dakota State Balls who went 16-11 with 2 FCS national titles. He brings a no-nonsense approach and staff filled with FCS winners. Offensive coordinator Josh Davis calls a balanced game. And that's really starting to be a lost art in our thing. Some of the teams that Michigan used to do it before they became so run dominant, they should be like that 50-50, like run pass. Lane Kiffin does an incredible job with it. Ohio State has done a really great job with it. We'll balance the run game and the pass. But Josh Davis has a really balanced approach. And we've seen this during his collegiate time at South Dakota State. And so these are, old foes, to be honest with you. But almost perfect 50-50 split, averaging 215 yards rushing per game and 220 yards passing per game. So when you look for supreme balance, I think this is what you should expect out of Fresno State this year. And while I think UNLV and Boise State are the class of the conference, I think when we start to look and analyze that next tier, Fresno State should certainly be a team on your mind as it pertains to that next tier. So that's great. Almost 50-50 run pass balance. It's difficult. You'll keep the team on the heels 24/7. So let's look at some of the key pieces offensively for them. So we got quarterback E.J. Warner, who's a transfer, played at Temple. He's son of Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, tossed 17 touchdowns a season ago. I think he had somewhere around 13 interceptions as well. But he should thrive in this scheme because it's built on the run game. When you do have the ability to run the ball, then that also gives you the ability to call play action off of the run. So I'm expecting that. And Bryson Donaldson should be a 1,000-yard candidate this year. If we look at the history and look at the history of Josh Davis offenses, they have the incredible ability to run the rock, also have the ability to pass, to keep defenses balanced. But he should be certainly a candidate that we're looking at, that if he can stay healthy this season, he should have somewhere around 1,000 yards. Defensive back, Alzillion Hamilton is another player to watch. He's preseason All-Mountain West, and he should be an anchor in Nick Benito's 4-2-5 defense. It's really a 4-2-5 multiple defense, but it's a 4-2-5 defense. Now, they got walking to a buzzsaw, the reopening of the newly renovated David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium in Lawrence. Lance Leopold has been steadily building Kansas. I truly enjoy seeing him talk about what it's like, heading into year 5. And he said fall camps are just easier. You hear, like, we see a lot of coaches that's been losing it recently. Like Brent Key lost it recently over his team's performance. We saw Kenny Dillingham. But these are intentional losing it. It's to send a message to their program 100%. But Lance Leopold has kind of been the opposite. He's like, things are smooth down here. So, they're steadily building in year 5. I think he's truly earned the trust, the love, and admiration of the fan base, to be honest with you. His roster looks dangerous, to be honest with you. Offensive coordinator Jim Zabrowski has praised quarterback Jalen Daniels for his leadership, command of the offense, those buzzwords like we like to talk about all the time on this program. And now Daniels will help, has new help in Iowa transfer LaShawn Williams. This is a guy in 2023 that had a really good year in Iowa City for the Hawkeyes. So plus Cam Pickett on the outside, I really like what this team has, the potential at least, on offense, especially with a new coordinator. Offense coordinator Jim Zabrowski already said, hey, I'm calling plays from the booth. He said, it pains me not to be on the sideline with the guys, but he said, I can see the plays and see the field much better from the booth. So he is going to call the game from the booth. I thought that was an added thing I should add. Defensively, defense coordinator DK McDonald keep things simple so his guys can play fast and physical. He will shift his front, but he prioritized speed and violence. The Jayhawks know the Big 12 is wide open, and this opener is about sending a message. And I think that's 100% accurate when we look at it. Like, their goal is to 1,000% send a message. The over-under for this game is 50.5, and Kansas is a 12.5-point favorite. So I think overall, this is how I feel about this game. I think this game is going to be closer than advertised. There's a sense of newness with Fresno State. And when you do have new coach, new coordinators like this team does, new guy at helm at quarterback, it's kind of hard to plan for them because you don't know what to expect. But when you got an offensive coordinator like Fresno State does and Josh Davis, who likes to play with incredible balance, and that doesn't mean, I'm going to run here, pass here. He can pass 5 straight times. He can run 5 straight times. 3rd and 5, he may run a rock. Just because, coach say, hey, you got two plays, for this 3rd down. So that means they're going to go for it on 4th down. So I like both of these teams. I want Kansas to be really good this year because the Big 12 is for the taking. You guys have heard me, kind of. I'm high on Baylor, still extremely high on Baylor. I don't think there'll be any changes in my playoff bracket. I still have Baylor winning the Big 12. But I think it's still wide open. I can be 100% wrong. I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again. Hopefully I'm not wrong on this subject. But I think in the grand scheme of things, Fresno State is no pushover. Ince didn't leave Fargo to lose quietly, but the energy in Lawrence, the depth on his roster, and Williams' ability to set the tone on the ground should give Kansas the edge. I like the Jayhawks to win, but hear me out. I don't think they cover. 12.5 is a lot. And I'm telling you, Fresno State is going to be hungry. Fresno State is also used to playing bigger games for their non-con games. They don't schedule non-con games like SEC. Message. Just being real, they don't. But, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a really good game. I'll definitely be checking. This one is on television, right? This one is on Fox. I think the graphic said it's on Fox. Yeah, so it's on Fox. So I'll definitely attempt to check this out because I will be, of course, in Atlanta for the MEAC SWAC Challenge. But super fun episode. We're going to cover more games tomorrow. Mondays and Tuesdays and sometimes Wednesday will be that heavy days that we are truly, covering games. And the bigger the game, the more coverage it'll be. So it may be some episodes around the nation. It'll be 30 minutes and we're covering one game. Because that's the type of detail I like to give when, I do these previews. So hopefully I steer some of you all in the right direction. Another fun episode today. Another hour in the books, man. These hours are starting to go, steadily more fast. The season is here. It's season week. You guys comment down in the comment section wherever you're watching this at, whether it's Twitter, my Twitter, CFB Nation Twitter, or on the good old YouTube. Who you guys, got winning these two games that I mentioned today. Don't be afraid to push back either. We don't mind that. We love to hear people speak about the game. We don't take it to heart. It don't frustrate us, probably like it frustrates some other people, but it is what it is. Just be comfortable if we attack your champ. You know what I'm saying? What you saying? Like, as long as you're comfortable with that, we're gonna always be good. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in the sport that survive in advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, which is tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, same bad channel. Y'all already know the deal. Also tonight, 8:15 p.m. or 8 on the CFB Nation. You all take care. Do something nice for somebody. Be empathetic. All those good stuff, man. And you all take care. College football it's been back for us, but it's officially back for a lot of people. So you all have a good day. Governor of college football. We're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two
CJ
great defensive minds. They have to be better on that side of the appreciate you checking out this video. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and also don't forget to check out the other content that we have here, there.